Hey y'all, guess what? It's the morning and it's time to bake. But first we're going to talk a little bit about these pans. And yes, I'm sorry, I just woke up, so I'm a little, PJ Mama and all. Keeping it real. We're going to talk about a couple different baking pans. Let me flip you around. Okay, so in almost every recipe I've ever seen of sourdough, they call for a cast iron Dutch oven. Look it's got all my crud in it. But don't go run out and buy one of these if you don't have one. There's other options. This one is actually my favoriteest. The way the bread turns out in it, I just think it's absolutely amazing. You can do, casserole dish with a lid. You could use 2 pans. Let's see if I can show you. 2 loaf pans if you got them. Should have taken the lids off these already, but I didn't. I'm sorry. Probably really loud. So you put your bread down in one of them, and then you would just use this as a lid. You can use another lid. It doesn't have to be the same shape. It doesn't have to be the same thing. As long as you have a vessel and a lid, that's what you need. And then there's the enameled cast iron. That's all sourdough. That's all I've ever used this for. Now let me tell you a secret about the enameled ones. You can't preheat enameled cast iron. Most of the recipes call for put your pan inside the oven, let it heat up with the oven for a good 30 minutes. Some of them even call for an hour. The enamel, if you do that, I don't think I have cracks. I've got a couple. Yes, this is all sourdough scum. That's all I ever use this for. I don't know why. I just don't use it much. Can you kind of see them? So if you preheat your enamel, it heats it up too fast and too high of a temp, and your enamel's going to crack. If you don't mind, and you only use it for sourdough, which I use parchment paper, so it's not a big deal for me, then you're okay. Another thing to watch on these enamel pans is what kind of handle they have. I've seen some of them that are like plastic, and I'm like, how does that even work? But it gets too hot, so you have to take your handle off and try to work the pan with no handle if it's not a metal one. And one of the other pans I've just recently started using is this crazy thing. Look at this. It's silicone, and it's a bowl. So I could do my whole dough mixing from beginning, middle, end. You can do your proofing, everything in there. And then when it's time, you just give it a little, tighten it up, and then you flip it like this, and you stick it in the oven. Isn't that cute? Now the only thing about this is it has these little holes, so the steam doesn't stay in as well. So I give it an extra spritz with water when I use this one. It makes a cute loaf. I have to lower my temperature and watch it closer towards the end so you don't burn. But they're cute. They work really well. I was really impressed. Today we're going to use the cast iron, and we're going to use this one. So let's go preheat the oven. And with this, with your cast irons, you put the whole thing. I always have to check in there and make sure I didn't leave anything plastic or anything crazy in it. So we're going to put the cast iron in there and let it preheat at the same time. Okay, so we are going to bake. You're going to preheat your oven, 480 degrees. Let's make sure there's nothing in it. I like to keep my fry pans in there. Oh, we're good. Breathing, that's my dog. So you just stick it in there, shut it up, and now it's going to preheat for your 30 or 40 minutes. I'll show you. He was out chasing the quad that my son's riding this morning. And the other vessel we're going to bake in today is I'm going to use this for the cinnamon raisin. And use this one for the cinnamon raisin. So those are the ones we're going to use. You don't preheat glass either. It heats up too fast and it won't work. So this, no preheat. Only preheat the cast iron or your baking loaves. And that you guys don't stress out. Let me flip you back around. Don't stress out about being able to preheat or don't preheat. They work exactly the same. I've had no difference at all. But with the cast iron, I always do because I like the little bit of crispier crust. Sorry, I'm putting my stuff away here while I'm talking to you. So preheat cast iron. You can preheat loaf pans. The glass pan, the silicone pan, enamel cast iron, you're not supposed to do. I've done it, like I said, but you're not supposed to. And with all my experimentation I've done on baking with breads, none of them made a difference if it was preheated or not. Not one bit. It didn't give me better spring. It didn't give me better color. I found no difference. But I'm going to say probably 99% of your recipes out there call for the preheating of the cast iron. Now that your oven's on preheating, my cast iron Dutch oven is inside of there preheating. I get out everything else I'm going to need before I take my dough out of the refrigerator. I use parchment paper. I love it. And it's supposed to only be rated to 425. No, it's never had an issue. The ends of it, you'll see, they'll brown, but nothing happens on the inside. So I just use parchment paper, and I get the big old box from Costco. I'm a cheapie, and I love Costco. So, and then the other thing you want to make sure you pull out, because you'll forget. Trust me, can you see these burns? These are all scars and burns from baking sourdough. Get out your oven mitts now. Have them out and ready so you remember to use them when you go to grab the Dutch oven or take the lid off. And then I've got our glass pan over here. She's waiting for her bread. And let's go get our dough. The one last piece of equipment we need to get out before we pull our bread out is your loms. I call it a lame because I think it's funny. But this is the real lom, the one that you can go buy and spend some money on. And what you do with it is we're going to score our bread. You can use a really sharp paring knife, or you can use just a razor blade, which I started out that way and I actually like it better, but I'm going to show y'all how to put it on your lom as well. You stick it in the bottom and then it comes out. See how it kind of has a bow on it? So when you're cutting, you want to do it at an angle, not straight up, but like this. So that's the other thing we need to get out. This is one of my favorite parts, is when you pull your dough out the refrigerator and it's like, ooh, what's it gonna look like? So there you go. She's grown. And if this was like your bayonet, this would be the bottom of your bread. So you would, because we would have floured it, and you would just tip it. Ooh, look at all the bubbles, you guys, look. I love it. We had an explosion over here. This is my cinnamon raisin. Those of you that haven't, look, those make me so excited. Okay, let me teach you how to tell if you've got a good proof or not. Wet your finger. You can use oil, but I don't. I just use some water. You use your finger, and you're gonna just poke. See how the hole's not going boosh. If it springs back, it needs more time. If it just sets like that, you're perfect. So you want the hole to stay, or if it comes back slowly, like sometimes it'll try to fill in a little bit, you're proofed. You're good to go. It's ready. The other thing you can do is you can do the float test on it. Grab a little cup of water, pinch off some of your dough, and drop it in the water. And if it floats back up, it's proofed and ready to go. If it sinks, it needs more time. All right, so let me get this guy out of the way. We'll do one at a time. So, did you all notice my dishes in the sink when we were talking earlier? Clearly on Friday nights, the dish fairy doesn't come, so a little disappointing. Sorry if you can hear the dogs outside. My son is starting the quad. And they all want to go. I wetted my hand just so it doesn't stick. Look at the little air bubbles. Look. Oh, I love it. We're just trying to gently get this out of here. Get it onto the counter. So if this was in your bayonet, this would be all pretty. You'd have your lines and it'd look all great. You're still going to want to tighten it up a little bit. By that, I mean you're like trying to get a little tension on the dough. The easiest thing to do is let the counter do your work. All you're doing is kind of moving it and sliding it. Can you see it forming into a ball there? Look, see the raisins? Try to get the raisins back in. Because they do. They get like hard and burned. Okay, look, we got a hole over here from our... You're gonna pick it up. One of the raisins fell out. We're going to get it onto our parchment paper. This little hole will not fill. And on this one, I'm going to bake in my glass pan. I just think it makes it cute. Oh, another raisin fell out. Just let the parchment paper be your handle. So now you're going to take your lame. Again, it's a lame, but I think they're lame, so I call them lames. And you can decide how you're going to score it. You can do a cross. You can do a straight line. Once you're ready, you can do like the fancy little artworks, whatever you want to do. And you want to hold it at an angle, not straight in. I don't know if you can see that. Like this is not right. If you do that, it's not going to work. If you want to get that big ear piece that sourdough has, really go in at an angle. I just kind of do it in between. And you just slice it. Oh, I hit my bowl. Clearly I need a new razor blade. Perfection is not my theory. So now I'm going to shove her into the oven and grab out the preheating cast iron with my pot holders because it's burning up hot. Oh, the one thing I forgot to do on this one. Get yourself a little spray bottle. This is my sourdough one. Just give it a little spritz so it gets some extra steam in there because the steam is what really gives you your oven spring. Okay. Let's see if I can turn you over here so you can watch. See, hot Dutch oven. Hot. Use a pot holder. Stick it over on your cooling rack so you don't burn your counters. I don't think a lot of them burn anymore, but still. Let's not be the ones to find out. Here's my second dough. That smells so good. This is the rosemary garlic. And let's check for proofing. Wet your finger. You all see, am I in a good place? Poke it. And see, it's not springing back, so it's perfect. She's ready. The crusties fell off. I'm gonna wipe the counter a bit just in case any cinnamon fell off the other one. Don't think cinnamon's really gonna be good inside the rosemary garlic. Hands damp. Just grabbing her out of there. Real gentle like. So we got her out and she's kind of a little soggy mess. We're just gonna tighten her up. Pushing the dough, you're just pushing it under itself. You can use the counter tension, kind of scooping her around. See how it's tightening her up? Look at how pretty that is. Get your paper over here. Charles, that's enough. So now she's on the parchment paper. Let me turn you a little bit so you can see the Dutch oven over here. Sorry if that just made you dizzy, you guys. So we're doing the same thing, dropping her in. Gonna use our lame, scoring the top. Sorry, this one's not closed. The Dutch oven is just too hot. You gotta do them deep. Like if you do just a little tiny on the top, it ain't gonna do much. Use your pot holder. Grab your lid. Remember, hot. Open your lid, open your oven. Oh, we didn't spray. I always forget my spray until it's like squirt, squirt. Hear it? Gotta love it. Put it in the oven. And I've cooked up to 3 loaves in here at a time. They've all cooked just fine. Now we're gonna lower the oven. We got them in there. Down to 450. Start. And then we're gonna do the timer. It's 45 minutes with the lid on. Now I will check the glass pan because it has a tendency to cook a little faster. So her lid may be coming off sooner. But now we just wait. They're in the oven. The bread's in the oven. We're going to talk a little bit about why we score sourdough. The reason for the scoring is because there's so much steam and so many gas bubbles inside the bread that if you don't give it a place to escape, it's going to like blow up your bread and have a crazy shape. And I've actually done it just to see what it does. It's kind of funny. But, you know, so that's why we score bread. And then somehow they got it all fancy and went into the artesian type of scoring, which I can do, but I don't do it. So now that we talked about that, these are the things you need to get out while our bread's in the oven. You need a cooling rack. I have 2 pans, so I'm going to get out 2 cooling racks. You need a thermometer because we need to check that the internal temperature of the bread is at least 200, 204 degrees. Like it's supposed to be at least 204 to be considered done. And we'll do all that and I'll show you how to do that when we get there. But get these out so you have them. And remember your pot holders. Don't put them away. It's been 20 minutes that they've been in there. So I'm just going to check them since I did the glass. And look at her growing. I love it. Look at, see the raisins popped out? Can you see that? I'm talking to you and you don't even see what I'm talking about. And I'll spin my pans. You don't have to do this. You're really not supposed to touch them. But I just do. Always have. But look at how pretty. The other one's still covered. All right, 25 more minutes and then we take the lid off. So if you're writing this down, let me say it all at once. Preheat the oven 480 degrees with your cast iron Dutch oven in it. Do at least 30 minutes. You can do it up to an hour, whatever time you need while you're prepping. And then you, when you put the pans into the oven, you're going to lower the temperature to 450. Leave the lids on. That's 45 minutes. Then you're going to do a 10 to 15 minutes with the lids off, still at 450 degrees. All right, our timer's going off. So our first 45 minutes is done. So let's go in here. Ooh, that's hot. Look, steam it up. Remember, use your glove. Look how pretty that is. Take the lid off, push it back in. And this one, look, we lost some raisins. Can you see them on there? They stuck. Set her right there. And give it a little spin. And this is the part where we're browning our bread and getting the rest of the insides to cook. So we're going to do the timer again. It's supposed to be 10 to 15 minutes, but with the glass cinnamon roll one, I'm trying to think how many minutes that we should do it and I don't forget about it. Let's start with 5. Whoops. And your other one's going to be totally fine. Okay, so now our lids are off And you're going to let it cook for another 10 minutes. I want you guys to notice what I've done with the lids. I take it off because remember, that's 450 degrees and it is burning, scalding, and I just don't trust it on my counters or on my cooktop. For me, this is the safest thing. I let it sit up here until the bread rings and then I'll move it, but it gets cool. And I'll do the same thing with my glass one. I had to get that raisin that was stuck on it, so that's why it's off. So I just let them sit and wait for the bread to get done, and then I'll move them before I pull my bread out. This way I remember they're hot, people in my house know they're hot, and it's just a lot safer for us. All right, so the timer just went off, so we're going to check our cinnamon loaf, because that one seems to always get done so much faster. Trying to get situated here. Feel a little okay. Pulled her out. I've got the other one still in the oven, so I'm closing it. We're going to check her temperature. Look how pretty. So you're going to need a thermometer, especially in the beginning when you guys don't, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Like you're not familiar. So you try to poke it in. I always try to do an inconspicuous spot, but since my bread squished up on the lid, it's not. Can you see the thing going? So she's nowhere near ready. She's still in the 130s, 129s. Watch, I'll pull it out and see there's still dough. So I'm gonna put her lid back on because I don't want her to be over browned. And I'm gonna stick her back in. Of course, I just burned myself. I'm going to give her another 7 minutes because that was really low temperature still. All right, so our timer's going off for the second time. I'm going to open it up here. I wish I could hold it and grab them all at the same time, but I'm just not that talented. So here's loaf number 1. Again, we need to measure the temperature. It needs to be at least 204. Look at that color. Woo! I try to do it in an inconspicuous spot. Can you see the thermometer going up? See how it's still moving? So I know this one's done because it's still going. So there you go. We're up to our 204. So now, very carefully, use your parchment paper as handles. Lift it out. And you want this to cool. I'm going to use my things because it's so hot. On the rack completely before you touch it. We're talking at least minimum 1 hour before you cut it. I love the crackling that the crust does when you pull it out. All right, let me grab my next one. Ow, ow, ow. Hot, hot, hot. Let me take the hot lid off of here. Let's check this one. Going in, try to get it in the center. It's bumping up 60s, 70s, 80. Can you hear the crackles? This one still needs a little more time. It's only got to 187. See, so with the glass pan, it just takes longer. I put my lid on because I don't want it burned. Let's give it another 5 minutes. Listen to this. This is my favoriteest thing. Let's get you down there. Can you hear it? The crackling. Maybe if I take you off, I can hold you closer. That crackling noise I'm trying to let you guys hear is actually the bread still cooking. That's why you can't cut into it for at least an hour. But there you go. There's the first one. You got a little bit of an ear here. And let's get the cinnamon loaf out in another 5 minutes. All right, the timer's going off. Let's pull out this cinnamon loaf. Oh, that's so hot in there. Remember, your lid is hot, so when you take it off, stick it somewhere that is safe. We're going to check our temperature again. It's like a sick child, right? You got to keep checking it till it gets to where you want it. '70s, '80s, '90s. I can't see it. There's '90s. 95. 98, 99. Come on, you can hit it. Let's go. One more degree. 200. So once it's at 200, then I'll do it one more time in another location just to make sure. See, we're in the 90s, 96, 201, 202. Yep, so this one is good to go. You want it to get to 204 degrees. So I know if it's still jumping real fast at 200, it's good. I'm impatient, so I never wait for it to get all the way there. But another way you can tell, let me pull this guy out of here and get it out of our way. If you don't have a thermometer and you haven't yet got one, that's one of those equipments that I would highly suggest everybody have. But if you don't, sorry, that's probably really loud on your guys' ears. Here's the other way you can check. You're going to turn your dough over and hear how it sounds hollow. That means it's done. And we'll do it to this one too, just so you can hear it. Hear how it sounds hollow? That means your bread's good to go. Now, that we said that, see how this one is all flat? Where you guys at? Here you go. Here, it's all flat. That's because my loaf was too big. And when it hit the lid, it smashed versus giving us the ear. And this is totally fine and good. And I knew it was going to do this. I wanted you guys to see that just because your bread may not look like you visioned in your head a sourdough loaf has to look, it's still going to be yum. This is going to be so good. And when it gets cut open and you see all the swirl marks from the cinnamon, you're going to be so proud of yourself. So don't beat yourself up over a look. This is still going to be a delicious loaf of bread. You have to remember, sourdough is a process. There's good, there's bad, there's yuck. And as long as you can eat it and it's delicious, you have mastered sourdough. The rest of it all just comes with experimenting and playing and finding what works for you. So there you have it. We got 2 loaves of sourdough. Thanks for baking with me. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm here for you. Make sure to like and subscribe. PJ Mama. Have a good one.